I'm in the studio today with Maya de Vitry, and I love your new record. Thanks for sending it to us. I'm playing a bunch of songs on the air right now on Radio Heartland. Welcome to Minnesota, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you co-wrote that first song we heard, Odds of Getting Even, with Caitlin Canty. Tell me about the process of co-writing with somebody.
So,
do you do it together or in separate places?
Yeah. So the Odds of Getting Even was all just in my old kitchen dining area, the first house I lived at in Nashville. And Caitlin came over to my house, and we didn't really know what we were going to write about that day, but I had a Rolling Stone magazine laying on the table, opened up to an article about Sharon Jones and her battle with cancer, and how music was one of her refuges, that she had left in life, even though she had had such a hard time breaking into the music industry and was overlooked for like decades as she worked and worked and worked, and she was still actively performing. And I wasn't really familiar with her music when I saw this article, but I was just really moved by her story and her like conviction to just keep going, keep playing, and especially this idea that we can't really like get, I don't know. To me, it felt like that we couldn't get even at the things life throws at us necessarily. And if that's going to be our purpose, we're just going to get frustrated. But so I came up with that line, the odds of getting even. And then Caitlin and I just wrote this song that kind of, wasn't necessarily something when it woke up that day knowing we were going to write. It was just co-writing is like you bounce ideas off of each other. And you're like, oh, what about this thing? What about this thing rhymes with this thing? And what about I'm picturing like a horse running in a field. Okay, let's follow that idea. Like it's very free play, like free association kind of, and putting things down on paper. It's really fun because sometimes with writing you get stuck in your own head and you're like there's like the expressive, creative voice in your head, but there's also like the judgment voice in your head. And when you're co-writing with somebody, you can kind of override the judgment voice sometimes because you're just like, that other person is like, yeah, that's awesome. I like that thing about the horse. And then you kind of roll with it instead of getting in your own head like, I don't know, does that make sense? So it can be really, I think some people are really nervous about co-writing, but it can actually be really freeing and a nice practice to do and get you out of your own ruts and patterns with writing. Yeah,
there's another song on the album that you co-wrote, drawing a blank now on it.
It's Nothing Else Matters.
Nothing Else Matters, Phoebe Hunt, right? Same process. She came to your house and you.
I went to her house and and that one I was messing around on this octave mandolin that they had at their house at the time, and kind of came up with the melody, the like do 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 do, just because of the instrument I was holding. And then we'd been talking about something that Phoebe was processing and going through, and then the song just sort of rises up out of that, And then there's another co-write on the album with Oliver Wood, and I went to his house.
Oh, okay.
It just happens in people's houses a lot of the time. Went to his kitchen dining room table, and we ate some soft-boiled eggs and then wrote some songs.
Wow. Big fans of all those people that you co-write with.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. So that was a couple of years ago that Odds of Getting Even you wrote, because I know she put it on her album, Caitlin did. So this album's been in development for a while.
Yeah. This album is not, even though it came out in July of 2024, it wasn't like made even in 2023. It was actually like the process for this. The writing started as far back as including songs from like 2017, 2018. And the recording for it started in 2021. So it's like a gathering of all these different places and times and songs. And I think sometimes it can be, it's not like it's confusing to have a record and one release date associated with it. It's just like on the inside, it feels totally different because I know that this album was like years of like simmering and kind of gathering things. But sometimes I think on the outside it can look like, okay, and then there's this clean chapter, clean break. Now she does this record, clean break. Now there's this record or something. And it's very blurry on the other side.
So this album is number 3 of being a solo act, the Maya de Vitry solo act.
Let's see. This is actually
plus an EP, right?
This is actually the fourth.
Fourth, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of rewind here. You came from a musical family. You grew up in Pennsylvania, playing guitar, fiddle.
So I grew up playing fiddle and learning fiddle from my dad because he plays a bunch of string instruments.
Okay.
And he doesn't read music at all. He's like totally self-taught. And so I was learning fiddle tunes from him, and we were going to old time and bluegrass festivals. I was just around a lot of people who were jamming, and I was also playing classical violin in school. So I was learning to read music on the page and playing, concertos and stuff like that. And I was really into it. I was in youth symphony, Lancaster Youth Symphony Orchestra, stuff like that. And I was also taking piano lessons from my grandma, and she could kind of read music, but not really. She was really mostly learning by ear. She had an amazing ear to hand connection, and she could play beautiful Chopin piano music, and she was composing a lot too. That was her big love, was composing pieces on the piano. So I think from an early age I had this idea that you could make stuff up and you didn't have to read. That it was just as valid to make up a melody or make up your own thing at an instrument as it was to pull out a piece from 1850 and play that. So that was really my formative musical time when I was really little. Then I didn't pick up the guitar until later. I did learn a couple chords when I was in kindergarten. My dad taught me a couple chords on guitar. But I didn't really play guitar until I was later teenager, kind of starting to write songs, and then banjo too. Also same thing, starting to write songs and wanting to kind of, it's hard to write songs and on the fiddle for me. It's just not as satisfying as playing the chords on the guitar. And so
that's when you wrote songs as a teenager starting out. Wow.
Yeah. Just started dabbling with that. And I was more around traditional music as far as the people I knew personally growing up, people who played old time Appalachian music. And we'd go to this festival in West Virginia every summer and camp out with all these people who were just playing really old tunes and really old songs. And I wasn't necessarily around songwriters and songwriting culture. Even in the bluegrass scene, I just kind of thought oh, that's cool. These songs, they just found them somewhere, but I wasn't thinking about them writing them. I was a big Nickel Creek fan when I was a teenager. And so that's where I started to kind of put together oh, they're writing these songs.
Did you ever play in a bluegrass band?
Not really a bluegrass band. Yeah, just for fun, just jams. Sure. Yeah.
I'm talking with Maya de Vitry in the studio today, and you've had a busy tour, and looks like it's not letting up anytime soon according to your schedule. So heading out to the West Coast and then some East Coast things, and you're all over the country. How's it going so far?
It's going great. It's kind of by design that it's all packed in here to the fall. Yeah. Because I'm kind of trying to figure out how I can feel good while I'm touring. And one of the things for me is if I can make it more of a seasonal job and I can sort of have these periods of the year where I'm focused on living at home in Nashville and being connected to the music scene there and working in studios there and working with other artists there, then I feel good when I can be there for long stretches of time. And then now that I'm out here on the road, I'm ready to go home for a little break before the next chunk of dates, but I feel more okay, put all of that on hold for a couple months. It's easier for me to do it this way, I think, than to do on a week, off a week, on a week, off a week. Yeah, I'm kind of having to compartmentalize it.
Got it. Yeah. So what's next? What's after this tour, or maybe during this tour, are you already writing songs for your next record?
Yeah, I'm always kind of writing, and who knows? I don't know. I've got lots of songs. I don't know what the next record's going to look like. I've got song, basically, like when I'm writing songs, sometimes I just put them in little piles. Like, and by little piles, I just mean like put them in this part of Google Docs and then put these songs in this part of Google Docs.
It's not the rock and roll pile and the folk pile.
No, it's like for some reason they feel like they have a gravity or something with each other. And so I move them over there. And like there's songs that I'm like, I kind of want to record this totally solo, like just me and a guitar. Or there's songs that I'm like, I kind of want these for this record that I kind of want to make with this producer. Or these are songs that I want to remember to show this friend the next time they make a bluegrass record. And, I don't know, just but it's really not linear. It's not, I don't have a really satisfying like linear answer of like, okay, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to write the next record. Yeah. It's a lot, like I said, a lot blurrier than that for how I do it.
I'm so glad you could come in today. And it was so fun to listen to you guys.
Thank you.
Keep this band around for a while. You
Thanks.
guys are really awesome.
I'm excited because this is actually like we have some real consistency in what we're doing this fall. Like this trio that you heard today is going to be playing in Colorado in November, and Joel and I are doing some duo stuff back on the East Coast, and it's really fun to play in all the different ways, and fun for the trio to interpret some of the songs that were recorded with the drummer, because I get to be a lot more rhythmic on the acoustic guitar, which is fun for me.
You guys are very rhythmic.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I'm so impressed with this record, and it's so nice to finally meet you after all these years of playing your music. So
nice to meet you too.
Congratulations.
Thanks for playing
thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for your time.
The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.